Hey, it's Kaylee. You know me as the Parts Girl, and I work here at PartsEdge. Thanks for following this awesome journey as we highlight thought leaders and trailblazers, share best practices in fixed ops, and cover success stories of how dealers sell more parts and service. This is the PartsEdge podcast with Kaylee Filio. I'm really excited to be interviewing Alex. Alex, welcome to the show.
Thanks, Kaylee. Glad to be here.
I know. I feel like I have so many questions for you, and I'm excited about what we're going to cover because I don't know, it's such an opportunity. But first, before we jump right in, just tell everyone who you are, what company you're with, and we'll go from there.
Sure. So my name's Alex Hines. My title is VP North America for Eccentric. And there's a bit of a story here that's probably worth telling. In 2024, my younger brother and I started a company called Accessory, and we saw a problem that franchise dealers were losing market share in accessory sales to Amazon and other sellers, other third-party sellers. And so we created a couple products together, really an MVP product, piloted it with a handful of dealers, and fast forward a year, and we were acquired by Eccentric in February 2024 rather, and the acquisition as part of that included me coming on board. So my role now at Eccentric is VP North America. I run our North American operations, and it's been a fun partnership in the first 2 or 3 months.
Yeah, that's a lot. Like fast forwarding, a lot happened, it seemed like. I mean, it took probably a long time to build what you guys created, but then once you built it and it was working, it was like, I feel like one thing after another, and here you guys are about a year later. And now you guys are going into like the tier 3 retail space. That seems to be the main focus. What kind of led you to that?
So I had 12 years at Shift Digital, and that was great exposure for me, one, into the automotive space, but also very much a bridge between tier 1 and tier 3. So working direct with OEMs, but then operating programs that benefit their dealers. And so, again, we had great visibility into needs of dealers, where vendors were operating, and we didn't see a ton of activity and innovation happening in the after-sale space. And so that's where, again, going back to the origin of our original company, we thought we could provide some innovation and some interesting concepts to add value for dealers. The partnership with Eccentric is actually quite interesting. So I've known the CEO of Eccentric for a number of years. He reached out to me last November and asked me to join their board as they had taken on some capital and we're going to expand into North America. One thing led to another. We traveled together, pitched together. I introduced him to a lot of folks in North America as part of that board role. And that's when he approached me and said, hey, what would it take to purchase your company and bring you on board? That took about 90 days to complete, which actually we're both pretty proud of because that process can take quite a long time.
Yeah.
And the reason why we saw this as such a nice situation where two puzzle pieces are fitting together is these guys at Eccentric had enormous amount of experience in what we were trying to do, which is upselling consumers on accessories at the point of vehicle lead submission. So Eccentric's background is they are a visualization and 3D company. They do build and price tools, new model release content for all sorts of different OEMs in Asia Pacific. They're not small. The stat in Asia Pacific market is that 1 out of every 2 cars sold goes through Eccentric technology for Asia Pacific. So they are quite large over there, and they could help us with a very difficult problem to solve. One even the OEMs have struggled to solve, which is getting really high quality assets of accessories and visualizing how those accessories look on a vehicle. This has been a challenge. Even in the OEM catalogs today, you see at best maybe 1 or 2 images, and we've seen things with no images, with CAD drawings or engineering drawings of those parts. And
Which is so crazy because the world we live in, no one looks at things without images, right? I mean,
correct. I mean, that's right. The number one thing
Yeah.
is if you're doing e-commerce and trying to sell something online is you need good photos. And this was reflected in all sorts of dealer website data that I've seen. If you go look at where heat maps are on dealer websites, it's vehicle images. People want to see what they're looking to buy. And so this is where we saw the puzzle piece really fitting together with our previous company, and Eccentric, they can help visualize the accessories on the vehicles. And so that's really where we kicked it off.
And that makes sense because I know in our previous conversations, there was, you mentioned that 9 out of 10 dealers that you've talked to, the sales guys don't bring up accessories. So why do you think accessory sales are such a blind spot in dealerships? I mean, obviously we know why, but like I kind of want to reiterate why that's such a blind spot.
For sure. So, as far as we can tell from the feedback we've gotten from dealers, in most instances, there are not direct commission structures related to accessory sales. Now, the commission structures do function for the sales folks around what was the total price of the vehicle. And so, what we found, the phrase that's come up now between dealers that we've had piloting our programs have been selling scared. That's the phrase that keeps coming up. And as far as we can tell, selling scared is simply, I don't want to blow the car deal, because the car deal is ultimately the most important thing here, of course. I don't want to blow the car deal by bringing up accessories. This is what we found. This is actually unprovoked, the exact same phrase used by 5 different dealer principals that we've spoken to in the last 2 weeks that have been using our products. And so what we're trying to do to solve that is, we all know the difficulty of large scale sales training across thousands of dealerships is very, very difficult to change behavior, to come up with commission structures. So our concept was, can we capture that interest in accessories from the consumer at the
So
point?
then you're not pushing it.
Precisely.
Yeah.
Precisely.
So, sorry, go ahead.
Exactly. No, it's exactly right. It's can we capture that interest at the point of vehicle lead submission to say, I want this Jeep Wrangler and I also want this roof rack. That was our intent. And you're exactly right. The downstream effect of that is we don't have to change the sales process for thousands of dealerships because we've already captured that interest from the consumer. This was the concept of our first product.
Yeah, I absolutely love this concept because I think there's such a market for, especially in the performance. I think I don't know what I don't know if it's just my generation or our generation. I don't know, but I feel like there's more outdoorsy and just we're getting out there off roading and the performance of our vehicles, and we want to accessorize them and make them different and customize them. I do want to point out a stat I think you shared with me, that accessories are a $50 billion industry, but 5% of those sales happen through franchise dealerships.
That's exactly right.
Crazy.
That's exactly right. It is crazy. And again, we think we can capture that. I mean, we've all done this, right? This is not rocket science. I don't even think most people need a study to believe the sentiment that we're expressing here, which is people buy a new car from a franchise dealer, and then within 90 days, they go on Amazon and they purchase their accessory of interest. This is what's happening. We all know this. So how do we take that market share? Well, one is, again, capturing that interest to fix some of these downstream sales process problems that we know are out there, as I mentioned. But the other one, I think, is really getting front and center on accessories within the dealer website. So I think there's multitude of ways we at Eccentric are launching 4 different products to try to get the consumers to have some interest in this. We know that personalization of vehicle is increasing. We've seen this with companies like Slate Auto recently, just did a huge social media blitz and model release for their first model. The entire premise of their business is about personalization of that vehicle. We know people are buying these accessories. They're just not buying them from franchise dealers. And we think franchise dealers have a couple really unique advantages over everybody else. And a handful of those advantages are you can include it in the financing of the vehicle. Dealer can install it for you. There's money to be made on the installation and labor. But then also on the consumer side, there's value in you're not going to void your warranty with a franchise dealer installing an accessory or drilling into a soft top roof rack. And then beyond that, we think that there's opportunity with some of the branding that the OEM entities like Mopar have, that there's brand trust and recognition as opposed to going on Amazon and buying a random overseas accessory provider or supplier.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, there's something valuable with having like not an aftermarket type part on your vehicle. I mean, there's just
that's it fits, right? It's going to fit properly, right?
And you bring up a good point, which I kind of didn't really think about, is the warranty. Like when you buy a new car, that's one of the things that you're fearful, especially when you're doing extra things when it comes to, I don't know, I just think of me when for off-roading and just all the things that could happen. and but then when you modify, it's like, okay, are we voiding the warranty? So yeah, and I know a few dealerships out there that are really capitalizing on having a kind of performance style like department. So they're like really marketing that. But there's nothing out there as far as the visualization, because when you think about it, we're all online shoppers. We all want to see things visually, and there's so much capability to really see it online and create. And how didn't
100%.
we talk about this before? It almost feels like it's like it's creating like a Sims. Like you're like when I was a kid, I played Sims and created, but that's like the same thing. You can do that with your car. But
There
then you're
are
capturing that, yeah.
You're spot on. No, you're spot on. I think the Sims analogy is quite funny because so Eccentric is a 3D company. That's what we do is we build 3D models of vehicles, often used in build and price or model release at tier one. But what makes Eccentric's technology very interesting, and relating this back to the Sims, we call it the democratization of 3D. And so 3D's generally been prohibitive except for entities with really large checkbooks. And the reason that is because almost all streaming, as far as I'm aware, every 3D engine outside of Eccentric's, renders on the cloud. And so the problem with that is there's cost that's going to the cloud providers based on sessions that are occurring. So there's direct correlation to my cost is increasing as the amount of traffic is increasing. And because of that, it's been extremely prohibitive for use, say, for dealers. This is why historically you've not seen any 3D modeling of vehicles or visualization on a dealer website. So Eccentric, in building their own engine back in 2016, they made a bet and said, we think the device GPUs on cell phones, computers, watches are going to get increasingly better over the next 10 years. And so they built an engine that renders 3D on device GPU. Because of that bet that they made, which of course was correct, all of our phones are infinitely better than the worst phone that they were testing in Android in 2015. That bet they made has now allowed 3D to become accessible to dealers. And that's really where we're stepping into the dealer space. So whether it's accessorization of a vehicle and showing that exact Jeep Wrangler in the right color with the right trim and the right options and showing how a roof rack would look on it, that's now available to dealers. Historically, that was something really prohibitive to everyone except the OEM themselves.
That's amazing. And some of the terms you're using, I don't know what terms. So I'm just trying to explain or visualize it. So I know when I'm going on Amazon and I want to buy a piece of furniture, I can scan the room and it can show me and what it would look like. Is that what you guys are doing?
Similar.
Like I can scan and it shows me like on my phone in real life kind of thing?
Totally. Yeah. Well, we definitely can do that in the furniture space. I know exactly what you're talking about. Yeah. The model here is it's really a 3D model. So when I say 3D, I think there is confusion, I think, in the space. It's like, what is 3D? What is CGI? Is that just mean you can do a 360 rotation of the car? Like, what does 3D really mean? And what it really means is complete interactivity. So you see this actually with Tesla, and you can see it in the infotainment system, where if you want to open the trunk, you can press the trunk on that touchscreen. The trunk will open. You can spin around your car. You can open the door. You can go into the car. This is what we mean. It's total and complete interactivity with that VIN-specific vehicle. So when I say 3D, it means you can do anything you want as if the car was right in front of you, just using your mouse instead of your hands. This is what we mean by interactivity in 3D.
Okay, so that's why I guess my Sims kind of visualize, which I haven't seen Sims in years, so it probably is so outdated. But at the time, it was like the coolest thing ever.
That's right.
Now it's gonna make me sound really young too, because I did have a dial-up internet to have to, and it was a CD. I had to put in the thing.
100%. I remember it very, very well. Yeah, no, 100%.
Okay. Anyway, so where did I want to go with this? So we talked about the visualizing, and then let's talk about just the frequently bought, because that's the original kind of idea that you guys accomplished, and then it's turned into something so much bigger. So let's talk about Visualizer and frequently bought tools together and helping dealerships kind of meet consumers where they want to be met, because I think you can help with that sales process because you're not pushing all this stuff on the person if you know they're already looking at these things, because we have that information, or you have that information, right? Like, we have
Precisely.
so much data that why don't we use it so that we're not, so we can serve people better.
No, it's exactly right. So the two products you're referencing for clarity to the audience, one is frequently bought together, which is a phrase I'm sure everyone has heard or seen on Amazon, or I think it's something similar to that. And the idea was we thought frequently bought together or frequently bought with on Amazon is one of the greatest upsells in e-commerce on the internet. We saw this very much as the equivalent of, do you want fries with that, or do you want to supersize that, which in retail was one of the best upsells ever. And so we said, well, look, if Amazon's populating a bleach when you're buying paper towel, what is that really accounting for today in terms of their overall sales? The data that we dug up on that process with Amazon, there's many other sites that do this too, but in the Amazon case, it's about 30% of their overall e-commerce revenue. So this is enormously effective upsell for them. And we wanted to take that same principle and apply it with accessories in the automotive space. And so where we place this tool is within a dealer website, right beneath the vehicle images on a VDP. So you're looking at a specific VIN on a dealer site, right beneath the vehicle images, you see frequently bought together. Again, very, very similar. We're not doing it in a checkout process because it's a little different, of course, buying a vehicle on a dealer site than it is buying a paper towel on Amazon. But the concept is the same. And our goal was not to sell this accessory to the consumer at that point, but to capture that I have interest in this. And again, the goal is to fix that downstream sales process problem that we keep hearing over and over from dealers, is to capture that consumer interest. So that was our first tool, frequently bought together.
I have a question about that, because I feel like there would probably, so talk me through like so you're not actually selling it, right? Like you're just capturing the interest in it and showing them that this is what could be bought. How has the process worked with connecting parts and sales? Because I feel like that's such a disconnect. And so like if you say they want this, but how do you communicate to parts? What if parts doesn't have that accessory? I know some manufacturers auto ship certain accessories with new cars, but like I just feel like there's such a lack of connection for that whole process. I don't know.
It's absolutely right. I mean, this relates back to the sales process problem. And these departments are disparate in many cases, right? Like the parts manager's not involved in talking to the consumer who's on the lot, talking to the sales guy. These are disconnected parts. So a lot of this goes back to how we onboard dealers. And so we almost always get the parts manager involved, especially at big stores. It's a necessity. To say, what do you guys typically stock? We double check all fitment data. And what I'm referencing is what accessories do you want to show by model? That's what I mean. So, typically what we see are, of course, higher margin accessories that the dealership knows they have in inventory or are easily able to get from the manufacturer. But we've had some peculiar requests where, we had lift kits, for example, where parts managers want to put that on. Well, that's not one accessory. That's an amalgamation of multiple accessories. And so, our first question is, if the consumer comes in and they say they want that, are you guys ready to go? I mean, that's basically the question we have constantly for them. But the dealers are savvy in this regard. Like if you get the parts manager on with the internet manager as you're doing the onboarding, which is typically our process, the parts manager is well aware of what they have in stock. Of course, we do double checks on fitment data using OEM fitment catalogs, but almost always the parts managers knows. I think they're batting 100% as we've onboarded dealers for fitment data and inventory availability.
Yeah, that's good. It's amazing to get them involved. And I think you mentioned something early on is like the compensation plans, I think, really get sales and parts connected together. And I'm excited about it. I think
Exactly.
It's working together.
Exactly. We're trying to churn accessory inventory, and we're trying to add gross to every new vehicle sale. That's really as simple as it is. We've heard this for years in the F&I space, adding upsell opportunities with gap insurance and all sorts of different F&I tools out there and products and plans. We just want to do the same thing with accessories. And we know that people are buying this stuff. They're just not buying it from franchise dealers.
That $50 billion industry, 5% going through dealerships. It's
exactly.
There. They're
exactly.
buying. Or we're buying, I guess I should say. We're buying.
That's right. We're part of it. Exactly.
So, okay, so you mentioned also, oh, let's talk about um just not showing just the MSRP, cuz I think the including like the labor and everything into, cuz that's a problem. Like people, yeah, you're showing what the accessories could look like, but what is that going to cost me as a consumer? That has to be very clear. You can't just like build it and go to the dealership and say, okay, how much is this going to cost? So,
It is a challenge.
yeah.
Of course, obtaining there's kind of two levels here, maybe three levels. There is what is the MSRP of the accessory, which is again all this relates back to vehicles. It's very similar. It's like what is the MSRP on the vehicle, what is the dealer price on the vehicle, and then what does it actually look like after trade in and financing and everything else. This is very similar problems, basically challenges. It is what is the MSRP of that accessory. Dealers can custom price accessories just like they can vehicles, same thing. So what is the dealer price of that accessory? And then how does that accessory actually work into the price of the vehicle? And so this is actually the challenge we are working through right now. And there's a number of different ways. I mean, we've had some interesting feedback. We've had feedback that I don't want to show price on this stuff, which, candidly, this reminds me very much of 2006 conversations that I had with dealers where they didn't want to show prices of vehicles online, if you remember back in those days. Of course, we've advanced and progressed since then, but it's very much in the same vein. I'm in your camp. I believe that we need to expose price in order to get a true high quality lead from the consumer who knows what they're getting into. I think we're all used to that at this point. We've all been trained on that on other e-commerce experiences to know what it's going to cost. So we're working through this in a number of ways. Of course, the catalogs for all of this contain this information. So the dealers have custom inputted the price within their, let's say the Mopar catalog for the dealer will have what the dealer wants to charge for that. So we have it, but we're trying to go to the next level, which is integrating it into the deal structure and giving a true monthly price in the same way consumers shop for cars, which is monthly price in most cases. And so we're working with DR providers, digital retailing providers, to start to integrate into a true deal flow that upsell of accessory. I want the roof rack. How much does that add to my monthly? That's really the sweet spot for us as far as pricing goes. It's almost less about what does this just cost and more how do we work it into the deal. So this is a product release for us coming over the summer.
Ooh, that's exciting. Okay. And then I want to talk about, we've talked a few times about what you're doing and what we're doing at PartsEdge and feel like it's kind of two sides of the same coin. So, in your opinion, how can we better align between inventory management and front end visualization to change the game? And I think that's kind of what we've been talking about a lot. So,
No, super cool question. I think what if I could summarize this for everybody, you guys are finding major cost savings and efficiencies within inventory ordering for these dealers. And we're on the other side of that saying, how can we get more consumers to buy this? So I think certainly there is data share that is of interest, right? So inventory ordering from dealers should directly correlate to demand on the consumer side, which is where we're at. So I think it's one is certainly sharing information is a huge one. And not at a dealer by dealer level is fine, but we see this value in data around consumer accessory demand to be really like the second benefit of this whole concept. Meaning, if you are you're an OEM or a region, there is great interest in understanding consumer demand for what accessories they want by make, model, trim, by zip, and by seasonality. I live in Denver, and there's enormous amount, of course, of ski rack demand in the winter. This plummets until about September, right? And so there's this click rate that we see that occurs on this stuff. I think marrying the two is a perfect fit of two puzzle pieces, right? Your guys' efficiency in what should we order and how much should we have stocked it should be completely in line with what the consumer demand is. Exactly.
Yeah. And that's the whole thing. I feel like I was just in a conversation yesterday and we were talking about it was not totally this, but just like the customer experience and how disconnected as an industry we have our main systems that we use, but then we have all these companies and software that have to connect and nothing talks to each other. And it's like, we as vendors have to do better to work together and connect it, so it's not like, oh, this works because this or this doesn't work. Does that make sense? I don't know.
Oh my gosh, no, 100%.
Yeah.
This has been an ongoing problem forever
Yeah.
in the dealer digital vendor space, going back to the original DMS providers all the way up through the huge number of providers that are working with dealers today. Everybody's very protective of their little territory that they have, right, and their little
Yeah.
data lake that they have. But I think at the end of the day, you are absolutely right. Like, what is our real goal? How does everyone succeed? By showing value to the dealers and selling more stuff on their behalf. That's how we all succeed, finding cost efficiencies and increasing consumer demand on what the dealer's selling. And so I think in cases where the symbiotic relationship of data share, let's say we both had a mutual dealer client, we should absolutely be talking about this, right? And the two are directly correlated to each other. So couldn't agree more. We got to get rid of the siloed, vendor protectionary mentality.
Yeah, and I do see a shift. I mean, based on like how there's so many podcasts, there's so many conversations, I do see more collaboration happening. So we're just kind of breaking the ones that are collaborating are going to stay around, and the ones that don't, they're gonna remain stagnant, and they're not gonna, it's the innovation. Dealers want that innovation. We have to continue to innovate, because the way we did things even 2 years ago isn't working anymore. So.
No doubt. I mean, this is a constantly changing consumer market, political climate, macroeconomic policy climate. I mean, everything is seemingly consistently changing. We went from stores are shut down during COVID to tariffs to, I mean, it'll be a new thing in 2 years. And so you're right. The fix for that is collaboration.
It is, yeah. I'm curious, and maybe you've told me this. What drew you to this? Like, I just, whenever someone sees an opportunity or thinks about stuff, I'm so curious, because I always go back to Steve Jobs, just Apple, and just like the opportunity and what he saw, and everyone thought he was kind of crazy. Same with like Amazon, all those great innovators that saw something and they just continued. So I don't know. I'm just curious, like, what drew you to it?
It's a fun question. I mean, certainly, I'm just drawn to entrepreneurship, and I have enormous respect for all entrepreneurs. It's a challenging task, including dealers themselves. I think they're sort of the pinnacle of entrepreneurship in many cases. So I think entrepreneurship in general, but ever since I was a little boy, I dreamed of selling more accessories. That's not really how this was. I'm kidding. No, it was an opportunity in the market, because I didn't see, again, in my experiences in running these tier 3 OEM programs, you really get a great view of the entire vendor world of who's working with dealers. And I just saw an opportunity on this side of the business that said, look, I want to do something. Whenever I work with dealers, I like ROI-based businesses. I like businesses that show either direct savings or revenue gains for dealers. That's what dealers want to hear. That type of marketing effort and MarTech around those things is really what I love. Because, I've worked with brand campaigns, and these things are very important. But when you're running a retail business, it's how many more cars did I sell? How much more money did I make? And so I love working around MarTech that focuses on ROI. And I saw accessories as just an open hunting season for improvement. I think it has just got kind of left to the wayside, because F&I is profitable at the dealer level. Service is hyper profitable at the dealer level. And of course, vehicle sales are the king, and will always be the king. It all centers around this. But accessories, I just saw it as sort of forgotten. There was a lot of stagnant things happening in the space. I had worked on a lot of after-sales projects in my previous roles. And again, I saw opportunity for innovation, some new life. And I really wanted to solve, you mentioned this earlier in the podcast, but I wanted to fix and be a conduit or a bridge between tier 1, tier 3, and digital vendors. And I think I sit right in the middle of that. I've worked more with those folks than most. And so the same way you had mentioned the parts manager is not really part of the new vehicle sales process. It's like a disparate department thing. The same thing or similar thing happens on the OEM side. It happens on the vendor side. And so I saw an opportunity, like, maybe I can connect these dots. I know exactly what the OEM's looking for. I know what the dealers are looking for, and I know what the vendors are looking for. How do I connect all this? That was the impetus for going into this space.
Yeah, I can see it, and I'm excited to see what you guys continue to do, especially getting into the tier 3. And it's just something that me being in the industry as long as I have, accessories have always been brought up, and I'm excited to see someone actually doing something about it because it's. I always would say like, what are we doing? Like, that's the first thing someone wants to do after they buy their car is accessorize it.
100%. 100%.
Do you have stats on that? Like, do you have stats? Like, what's the percentage?
Of people who actually add an
frame.
accessory?
Yeah, and then there's probably time frames of, especially when you're looking at like, okay, there's in the first 30 days, there's all the weather mats, whatever. But in 6 months, maybe there's some extra stuff added, like, the rack that you were talking about, or for us, it was the sliders to protect the frame. I don't remember the exact term, but I suck. I do listen when my husband tells me some of the things.
No, I mean, so your question, like the stats, you're right. It's really within the first 90 to 120 days is where we see the post. I bought my new vehicle from a franchise dealer. Now I'm online searching for accessories, and a lot of it is price shopping, no question. People are online price shopping, just like anything else that they do. Yeah. What we're trying to do is, it's going to be impossible for a franchise dealer to sell the absolute cheapest version of an accessory. So I don't think the play is, do we want to compete with a Chinese supplier who's able to produce this at no cost? That's not the answer.
I don't think that's what people really want either, is the
It's
cheapest.
not. That's exactly right. You're spot on. It's about convenience, a warranty, assuredness. And I think this is where the dealer really has the major competitive advantage. So, we've talked a lot on this call about how do we capture consumer interest at the point of vehicle lead submission that they want an accessory. But there's this whole other play, which is post-sale follow-up. Yeah. Exactly. Mm-hmm. And so this is where we came up with our second product, which is an accessory visualizer. And it's exactly what it sounds like, meaning every single model in 3D, you can click the top 40 selling accessories and see how it looks on your car. And amongst that, ordering other accessories on here too. And the goal with this is to make this live on a dealer website, but it's not because we think we're going to capitalize on organic traffic in the way Frequently Bought Together might in capturing leads. This is about use in post-sale follow-up. So if I'm a dealer, I know that Alex just bought a Jeep Wrangler. I know that I'm able to market him. I know exactly what trim and options he already has. I know that he's local and I'm his dealership of choice. Why not follow up in the first 90 days to get him back in and show him how accessories look on his Jeep Wrangler 4xe? This is a high click rate when paired with, say, an email or SMS campaign to recent buyers. This is the vision for the Accessory Visualizer.
That's amazing. You don't think about the after, after the sale. This exactly. Is like before and after, so you can keep marketing, and this, as long as the interest is still there, why wouldn't you continue marketing after the 190 days or however many days? And then you can also create and continue to build that relationship for the maintaining of the vehicle too, to come back to your service.
Precisely. Same process could exist at a tier 1 level with customer does a build in price and it's waiting for delivery. So what a great way to keep the customer engaged. I just built a Ford Bronco. It's going to be 3 months till it's delivered to the dealer. In that 3 months, OEM and or dealer allowing via email marketing or other, the consumer to customize that Bronco with accessories. So when they come to pick it up, the dealer already has it installed. It's ready to go. It looks exactly as they built it within the Accessory Visualizer. So same concept, even for a tier 1 build and price customer, not even at the tier 3 level. Follow up, keep the customer engaged. We presented this to a large OEM probably about 6-7 months ago, and the CEO that we presented to came in and said, oh my gosh, I would have loved to have this during COVID when there was those huge waits on vehicles for 8 or 9 or 10 months. Why not keep that customer engaged with additional accessorization?
Oh yeah. That would have been nice during COVID. But no I mean, there are still, we're still ordering vehicles and kind of waiting, I guess, a little bit, just not like a year.
Not a year. Yeah, exactly. Not a year. Not that bad. But yes, the process is still there for sure.
It's still there. Okay, so to wrap up, I feel like we've already kind of covered what we're excited about, or what excites you most about the future of this conversation. But yeah, I just kind of want to hear, just to wrap up, what are you most excited about with the future? What do you guys have going on?
I think I'm really excited to bring 3D to car dealers in a way that isn't just doing 3D for the sake of 3D. We want to deliver value for dealers, and value means incremental revenue for car dealers. That's what I'm really excited about. We are certified now on a couple of the largest OEMs in North America at the tier 3 level. We are working right now with another large OEM on building new model release at tier 1, so for the tier 1 website. And we're working with some new, smaller direct-to-consumer OEM EV startups for their build and price tools. So we have quite a bit of stuff going on. I'm excited to be a great conduit between tier 1 and tier 3. I think historically it has been, we build something for tier 1, OEM pays for it, and the tier 3 world is kind of left to pick up the scraps. Maybe you get an asset library or something. This gets a little bit different in that, I know a lot of the dealer website providers, vendors, stakeholders. I think we can share a lot of what the OEM's doing with the tier 3 networks in a very easy way that makes it accessible for everybody.
That makes sense, and a little bit more customizable, right? So, because I feel like what happens is they're just like, this is what works, here you go. It's like, no, I think you have to adjust it to the way that dealership is, where they're located. Even if, two Toyota differences, two different parts of the country are totally different. So you have to look at,
Spot on. All the way down to website layouts and templates and how's it going to fit. All this stuff has been contemplated for how we want to distribute content from tier 1 to tier 3.
Yeah, that's huge. Well, I'm excited. I know we're still going to stay connected, but I'm excited about this conversation and everyone to hear about it. It's not like I have that many followers, but if we're going to push it as best as we can, so someone will hear it. That's the magic of podcasting. So thank you so much, Alex, for joining and having this conversation.